agenda. Welcome everybody to the Bike Walk Commission meeting. I'm just pulling up the agenda right here. It is November 1st and the agenda is still not here. I'm pretty sure the first thing on the agenda is our friends from Stantec who are joining us today to talk about some sidewalks. So without further ado, I think, do we need to vote to start the meeting? I can't remember.
No.
Great. Well, then I'll turn it over to, I guess, Greg. Greg, do you want to introduce our friends at Stantec?
Yes, so Phil Katz and Chelsea Henderson are here from Stantec. They're here working on some sidewalk projects for the update for our transportation master plan for the city. And they have a little presentation that they want to show. And Phil, I'll hand it over to you, or Chelsea, whoever wants to take over.
Yes, I'll be doing the presentation and Chelsea will fill in the blanks as I'm missing them, I'm sure. Let me share my screen and you can see the PowerPoint here. Didn't want to do that. How's that? Everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
good. I'll say, so we were engaged as part of the transportation master plan to look at 3 areas to add sidewalks in the city of Norwalk. And we're just looking at preliminary plans right now. So they still need to be funded and whatnot. Our schedule right now is we're trying, we've done some of this work. We're fairly well along, but it's a good time to kind of show you what we've done, see if there's any feedback, and then we try and put together the final package, hopefully by the end of the year. What we haven't done yet is put dollars and cents on it. That's always the fun part. But anyway, so these are the 3 pieces that we're looking at. Down in the lower right-hand corner, this is it's George Avenue. Over here on the left, that's Riverside Avenue. And then up in the, did I move it? Up in the northern part of the screen is Linden Street. So what we did is looking at these various streets again. George runs from. I'm having a little trouble here. George runs from Tierney Street to Main Avenue. I'm sorry, to Route 1. What we're trying to do is connect into by Stu Leonard's there. Linden Street will go from Main Avenue to West Rocks. And then Riverside will connect from Belden Avenue to New Canaan Avenue. So as we were putting these together, we also were looking at, they could provide connections to your current walking loops. 2 of them do anyway. So George Avenue connects into the loops that are around City Hall. And then Riverside actually connects into 2 loops. One is the one that's in the cemetery. And then there's one that's just, we're just north of the Jefferson School loop. So these loops do make sense. They do connect into existing walking paths and kind of extend those in the city. So what we had done is we had driven up and down the streets. We have your GIS and tried to look at the various things that would be in the way of putting in sidewalks. So along George Avenue, there are a number of fences, that are in the right of way. There's also large trees, hydrants that need to be relocated. What we observed was there's a lot of parking on the east side of the street, not as much on the west side of the street as you're heading toward Route 1. And there is an existing sidewalk on a portion of this road. These are just some images of George Street, just to kind of give you a flavor for what it looks like. You can see some of the yards, some of the parking, some of the sidewalk down by Route 1. So these are the various things that are, and you can see some sidewalk is in place on this street. So what we're looking at, again, Tierney Street is here over here on the left-hand side. And we're thinking at this point that we might be able to get a sidewalk on each side of the street. as we're coming down each street where we hit an intersecting street, we'll reconstruct with the proper ramps and crosswalks and whatnot so that people can safely cross the street at these various intersections. You can see that, some of the conflicts with the trees that are over in this area. Hopefully we can kind of, go around those, but there may be some that need to come down in order to put these sidewalks in. As we continue further, I guess it's north toward Route 1. Again, you can see that we're putting sidewalks, or trying to put sidewalks on both sides of the street. Just to orient you, this line here is the right-of-way line that's along the street. So we're trying to keep it within the right-of-way, trying to minimize impacts to adjacent property. One of the kind of interesting things, I guess, to note is that some people think they have more property than they actually do. So that's one of the things that we'll have to deal with. They've put various things within city right away. And as we get closer to the Route 1, this is Stu Leonard's here on the corner. The yellow represents existing sidewalks. You can see that from Route 1 up to in this vicinity between Station 20 and 21, you have a sidewalk there. So we'll probably look at reconstructing part of that because it's not in the greatest of shapes, but we'll have options for, just maintaining the existing sidewalk and then putting in a new sidewalk. So then as we look at Linden Street, again, there's a lot of fences and walls that are in the right of way, some large trees. Parking is mostly on the west side of the street. And there's some retaining walls on the east side as you get closer to Main Avenue that are kind of keep you from putting in sidewalks on that side of the street. There's also some steep slopes, some dense vegetation. You have a lot of sidewalk already on the street. This is mostly an asphalt sidewalk. And what we try and do is connect into those sidewalks. This is that corner, that sharp corner on Linden Street where you got to kind of almost do a 90. You see some of the existing sidewalks that are in place. I think some of these were a requirement of the adjacent residential development where they would put in sidewalks. You can see some of the topography issues with these stairs and whatnot that are in a portion of the street. So if we begin at Main Avenue, down on the upper left-hand side, the yellow again are existing sidewalks. And while they're existing sidewalks, we still may redo the accessible ramps on the corners. Those were not in the greatest of shape, and I'm not sure if they currently meet ADA code. But there's a portion that's on the east side. Can I get my, yeah. It's this part of the sidewalk, but this is where, you got some retaining walls, you got some slopes, it's kind of tough to put a sidewalk on that side. So we're looking at the main sidewalk to be on the other side of the street. You can see that in green as we're progressing up the street. There's a little portion in here where you have an existing sidewalk, but to continue that along here, if you're familiar with this road, it would be very difficult. You can see the existing sidewalk along the west side of the street. Again, I think those were constructed as part of the developments that are adjacent to it. So we will try and pick up on those and continue that sidewalk. And then let me just show you here the corner. This is the corner over here. And then, where that 90-degree is, and then this picks it up, it would be over here on the left side. So this would be all new sidewalk all the way out to West Rocks. And then the final section that we looked at was on Riverside Avenue. Riverside Avenue is where they're currently constructing the NRVT trail, which would go from Union Park up to New Canaan Avenue. There's, again, some steep topography on the south west south end of the road on the west side, by that, I think it's a convenience store, liquor store. Up by the cemetery, there's basins that are inset from the road, so those would have to be redone. And again, on the west side, there's some retaining walls, steep slopes. So most, in the southern end, most of the trail will be on the east side, and then it can jump over to the cemetery side. And part of the objective in extending the sidewalks on Riverside is making those connections to the NRVT trail and connecting from the street to NRVT where it makes sense. These are some of the pictures along Riverside Avenue. This is at the south end. You can see that's a difficult area to put sidewalks. The same over in here where the residences are elevated well above the street, and they use that the lower part of their property for parking. And then there's some relatively new houses that have been built, and they had sidewalks constructed as part of their development project. So if we look at Riverside Avenue, again, this is at Spring Street, beginning of Spring Street. There's a short portion of existing sidewalk. And then what we would want to do is connect from there into the NRVT. The blue is the NRVT as it's coming from Route 7 and then paralleling along Riverside Avenue. So that it would stay on Riverside Avenue. And then when we get to Hill Street, kind of make a connection there. So it allows, the residents to come down out of Hill, get onto the trail if they'd like to, or stay on the other side of the street where there's an existing sidewalk in front of these houses. Oops, sorry. In some of these houses, and then from the end of that sidewalk, we would continue it up along Riverside Cemetery, and then connect into New Canaan Avenue at the end. Again, we would create a four-way ramps and also the crosswalks at that intersection with New Canaan Avenue. So that's what we're doing. And we certainly welcome your input, thoughts, questions. So I'll turn the floor over and let you guys go at it.
Well, thanks, Phil, for the presentation. Anybody want to go first?
I have a question.
Barb, go ahead.
When you go down Hill Street and you're showing some crosswalks there, if you cross over to the NRTV side, there's not an entrance there. You really would have to walk along the street to where how it looks now to where the parking lot will be. So I don't see how that works.
Well, we would make that connection. I mean, that right now it's not, but once this project gets approved and get, for construction documents, again, all we were tasked is to do a preliminary plan. So the next task would be to do the design, and we would break, I think there's a guardrail there, right? Is that? Yeah, so we would have to.
And it also drops down onto the trail a couple feet at that point. So you would, even if there was an opening, you'd have to hop down.
Right. Well, yeah, we would have to make that transition. I don't think they've paved that trail yet, though.
No, not yet.
So it's gonna come up another, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 inches, so
That's,
higher, but we will make, that's part of the design, but the intent is that you can just come straight across the street. We don't want you going up and down Riverside Avenue. That's not,
no.
it's not the place to be walking. Believe me, I've been on that many times, so that would be trouble. So, okay, I got you. Good question.
Thank you.
I have a question, Phil.
Yep.
Out of all and I think it's a good plan. I like it. Just curious, how do you, in the end, pick these streets out of all the streets in Norwalk that could use sidewalk improvements?
How did we pick them?
Yeah.
We didn't pick them.
Okay.
So Phil, I'll step in, I'll answer that for you. So,
Okay.
so Judd, it's not so much that these are like the the top streets that only need sidewalks. Obviously, all over the city, there's a need for sidewalks.
Right.
These 3 streets have been a topic of discussion, needing sidewalks for years. If you go back to the previous bike ped plan, Linden Street and Riverside were mentioned in those plans.
Okay.
To have sidewalks, and then same thing for George Street. There's always been a push, especially at like the common council level, and at the mayor's level, for a need for sidewalks there. It's not so much that we're prioritizing that these are the only sidewalks that we're looking at this time. There's other sidewalk projects that we're looking at. We're just looking at, as far as advancing the master plan, and the areas that we're targeting for the master plan is intersections and other areas as well. These are just kind of the sidewalk projects that we would like to see completed as part of the master plan. So that's what Stantec is doing for us and tied to the master plan.
Okay, good.
Got a question, Phil. Do you mind backing up all the way to the George Avenue slides? In particular, the south end of George, the intersection with Tierney. Because that was the very beginning, I didn't catch that. Okay, cool. Yeah, it looks like it got cut off there at the very left side, but it looks like we're gonna have the 3-way crosswalks, and there's an
Oh, yeah,
existing
yeah,
crosswalk on the
there's
other
an
side, Tierney.
existing sidewalk on the other side. Yeah, we clipped it a little bit, but we want to create, at any intersection, we want to create the proper ramps, crosswalks and whatnot.
Yeah, that's certainly something that we see as a priority as well. I know this is out of scope for your work, but for Greg, maybe this is more for you and for TMP. But I would love to see that connection completed. I'm sure that there are several different things people would want to do, but I think the biggest one is probably to access the schools on Strawberry Hill, the middle school being the most obvious since it's close right there. But it looks like on Tierney right now, there isn't a sidewalk. And so if we might get a lot of bang for our buck by completing that connection, just the section of Tierney between George and Strawberry Hill. It's like 2 blocks.
Right. As far as this project is concerned, that would be a separate sidewalk project.
Yeah, I understand.
That would be something that we would have to look at for a different funding source, or a different, depending on the length of it, obviously, and how we can, obviously build that connection up to George Ave. But, one piece at a time. Obviously, we want to get these 3 streets targeted as far as the master plan. And if we could do something else to tie it to it, then we definitely will look at that and find those deficiencies.
Great. Yeah, I'm just pointing out that once these 3 are done, that seems like a very it should
And it's
be high
not,
priority because
and Tanner, it's not
Yeah.
that these ones are the first ones that are going to get done of any street in the city.
oh, okay.
It's not like, oh, okay, we can't put a new sidewalk in until we do George, Linden, and Riverside. So if we have other funding sources for other projects that we apply for, obviously those can get funded and built as well. So this is just like Phil had alluded to, these are just preliminary concepts before we even get into a design phase. This is all part of a master plan.
Yeah. Is there enough wiggle room in the funds allocated for this project that you could include those 2 blocks of Tierney?
Well, I mean, so you're looking to you want the ramps and the crosswalk and sidewalks on Tierney? Is that what you're?
No,
Yeah.
I'd say the connector from George up to Strawberry Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
we
compared
can-
to the
we can
total
look
length
at-
of George, it's quite short.
Yeah, we can look at that through another funding source, Tanner. Because remember, this is just a master plan. This is not that, this is the final document, and then we can go and, go build the project from here. There's still other steps involved, but as far as completing the overall master plan, we're only looking at these 3 streets for this project for right now. But we can also fund that project for something else.
I think this is the piece you're talking about, right? Let me see here. From here to here.
Yep, that's all I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that you have to split stuff into projects, Greg. My point is that compared to the overall length of this project, it would be a drop in the bucket, and it would close an
Yeah.
important gap in the.
Yeah, we can do it through another project. That's what I'm saying. We can do it through other funding and other projects. It's not going to be part of the master plan per se, but through other funding sources and other projects, we can look into it.
Okay, I'll follow up with you about that later.
Okay.
I have a couple questions while we're on this one. I have a few questions actually on all three. Phil, thank you for the presentation. First question was that section in particular, are you looking at any property taking? I know you said you were trying to keep it all in the existing right of way.
On George,
Yeah, on George.
there's a couple that are tight. We haven't finalized our evaluation of that. We had a meeting, I think last month, and one of the things that we hadn't been doing, but we've kind of been given authority to do is look at, is there any street that's wider than it needs to be? If you have a 30-foot wide street, can there be a road diet to get that down so that rather than taking from the adjacent property, we can just take from the street. So we haven't finished that analysis, but that's what we're looking for.
Got it.
To get an easement or rights from adjacent property owners is difficult. So that would really
Yeah.
things up. So
Okay. So then,
activists do not have to do that.
yeah, along those lines, you mentioned that there were some trees that were in conflict. I was wondering if the scope of the project included tree replacement for any trees that were lost, or the installation of street trees.
I think it didn't specifically, but that's certainly something that we would recommend. We're trying to do complete streets, and you're taking out a tree, you need to replace that, or maybe you might even have to replace multiple ones to make
Right.
that tree. So that'll be in the budget for the project, is to replace trees and quite frankly, add trees if we can do that.
Yeah, because that's a reasonably decent foliaged street with some mature trees, so it would be a shame to cut down ones that are providing good tree canopy, especially when that's under debate. And I know the city has recently caught flack for not being as tree friendly as it has been in the past. I know we've got at least one grant for a portion of the city to help mitigate that. So I'd hate to see a lot of tree canopy
Well,
get taken out.
Yeah, no, we agree. And, I'm an engineer, but in our office, we also have a half a dozen or so landscape architects, so they'll keep us on the straight and narrow. Is that?
And
Nice.
specifically for George, even though we will try to stay out of easements, there is no avoiding moving fences and hedges and walls that have been built on the right of way.
Yeah, that was another one of my questions, is how, I know it's not really your job necessarily, but how is Greg and how is the city planning on implementing this? Because I know there's a lot of residents that, as you said, have kind of annexed sections of the property for their own, and there's definitely a lot of on-street parking
Yeah,
that goes on that street.
I included some pictures of that in the pictures of George, if you go to that slide.
Yeah, I did see them. I just don't know how I'm wondering how we're
Well,
going to deal
we're
with that.
certainly here to help the city in doing that, but we're going to take watch their lead as to how they want to do that.
Okay, so that's
City might
fine.
us
So then
on
a couple other ones. Where are you seeing the turn radiuses being at the minor roads? Because those are
Mhm.
right now, they're very neighborhood scale, so it's very pedestrian friendly already, even though there are no improved crossings. And also I was wondering if there was the thoughts about providing bike share route or any bike infrastructure. And while I'm lumping this stuff in, are you seeing any of the intersections going from right now? I think there's very limited controls. So either a signalized intersection, it looked like maybe there was a traffic light dot planned for George and Tierney, or are you seeing those all going to three-way stops?
Yeah, we were just looking at it from a start. We weren't really evaluating signals and whatnot. But that may be something that's warranted. You'd have to go through the whole signal warrants, the various ones with traffic and accidents and whatnot, but that's currently not in our scope.
Okay, so your scope is just to lay out the plan and see if you can fit
Right, just
everything
to kind
before.
of see
Okay.
how we can weave these things through the various things that are in the street right away. So That's
Okay, understood. So that helps on that one. It's kind of some similar questions on Linden and Riverside. So Linden, I was just hoping you'd come up with some sort of utility pole bypass detail for the asphalt sidewalks that are currently kind of weaving around and through the telephone poles to provide better
like
accessibility around them.
these.
Yeah, would you be able to work with the utility to get them more squared off?
Well, we could
Extension
come back
cable?
here and do it a little bit better. I think what the developer just said, okay, I got to keep 3 feet from the pole, so he just kind
Yeah,
of 3 foot. But yeah, we've worked with the utilities in trying to make a plan. Even this with the guy wire over here looks
yeah, that's what I mean. I see like
it
in
looks a
more,
little dangerous.
more urban conditions, they can get those more vertical with a standoff arm from the pole that
Right. Yep.
makes it more pedestrian friendly.
Yes. Right.
So I'd like, I guess, as you continue things, that items like that or examples that you can show in your presentation to the community, I think would go a long way. And then Riverside Avenue, I know it's adjacent to the NRBT, but it is a fairly broad street in some spots. Is there any consideration to on-street bicycle infrastructure for transportation use rather than recreation? And along the cemetery, who is the cemetery responsible for the ongoing maintenance of the sidewalk, such as snow shoveling, cleaning, repair? And if not, cemeteries, I don't know what their financials are like, but I imagine they're maybe have some sort of tax exempt status like a church or something, and it might be difficult to get them to come up with the funds to maintain a long stretch of asphalt or concrete sidewalks. So I'd hate to see
Yeah.
us burn,
I'd have to
a
get.
mile or more of concrete
Right.
sidewalk and not have it be taken care of.
I think it's worth noting too that there are a couple walking routes in the cemetery already.
Yeah. Trying to connect with those, but I'm gonna need to get back to you on maintenance requirements for the cemetery. As I
Yeah,
understand,
I think that's more for Greg. I mean, that's more of a
Yeah,
city
and I
municipal kind
thought-
of question.
I thought they were fairly receptive to putting a sidewalk there, but don't quote me on that. But I thought in some of our discussions, I thought they were in favor of that.
The neighbors were when we went out to look at the sidewalk itself.
I think that would be more for a discussion, after we get a concept and see where the best fit for the sidewalk would be. And then once we kind of reach that and we go into a more, from a concept more to a defined design phase, then that's something we'll look to consider and look at, issues such as that. But I think right now what Stantec is looking to do is just seeing the best layout and placement and what the roadways can fit, at least, ADA compliant concrete sidewalk at least, where
Right.
they can.
Well, we'll put those issues into our comment section so that it's not lost.
Okay, thank you.
I think those are very good points.
So at this point, we probably need to wrap up because we have a lot of things on the agenda. I did want to give Sam an option to chime in. I think he's the only commissioner that hasn't had the chance. Sam, do you have anything to say?
No, actually, Colin kind of spoke to kind of my major point, but I did actually have one question.
Go ahead.
Regarding the paved sidewalk here, this is not really going to be in line with other questions that have been asked, but I almost wonder why more of this isn't done with given the fact that pavement is so much cheaper than cement. I know it's unsightly, but I almost wonder if it's if it would like send a message to homeowners and communities that this is what it takes to get sidewalks implemented in an affordable way when we don't actually really stand behind them.
So Sam, one thing to, and I understand what you're saying. One thing is, there's no funding available for asphalt
Okay.
sidewalk curbing through any state or federal funds. So it would be all on the city. Also, it just doesn't last as long as well. That concrete would last, especially the curving as well, using an asphalt curb.
Right.
So, I mean, and there's no standard for a paved footpath or walkway that's asphalt as well. So it's pretty much just laying asphalt. So it kind of deteriorates a lot quicker than concrete. So if possible, we would always like to put in, a concrete sidewalk, where we can. But I definitely understand what you're saying. And also the homeowner also doesn't have to maintain an asphalt walkway that they do for a concrete walkway. as well.
Oh, okay.
So they don't need to, because it's not technically a sidewalk.
Yeah, that may be the driving point.
It's a footpath.
Yeah, I mean, I much prefer the aesthetic and
Yeah.
functionality of cement, but I just wonder in this community that is so car dominated,
Yeah.
where taxpayers are more than likely going to be a little bit stingy with the idea of applying it to public work such as sidewalks. If just paving sidewalks around here wouldn't send the message, but I get it. That makes sense. Thanks for the explanation, Greg.
Yep. Anybody else have any other questions for Phil?
Well, Greg, I think regardless, we need to move on. I'd love to give tons of time to every agenda item, but there isn't. We simply don't have the time.
All right. Well, I thank you for your time and your comments. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Yes,
And
thank
thanks for
you.
working on this. We look
Thank you
forward to
both
these
very
sidewalks.
much.
Thank you, Phil.
Yep. See ya.
All right. So at this point, I'm looking at the agenda. We did skip over the public input section. I don't see any members of the public here. We do have one attendee that's not a panelist, but it's Sergeant Galino from the NPD. Norwalk Zoom, do you mind promoting her to a panelist? Okay, hopefully that happens pretty quickly. I guess one reason I would like Sergeant Galino to be included is because I think that when the sidewalks go in, that it makes it that much more important that the police department is involved from an enforcement point of view. If on a road like George, I imagine that once sidewalks get put in on both sides, that eliminates some of the street parking that people have, the de facto street parking that people have been using, parking on their lawn. And it means that we'll probably need to have some monitoring for illegal parking that otherwise the police department wouldn't have had to do. Does that make sense, Sergeant Lino?
So I'm trying to first understand all these words that are coming up on my screen. Join as a panelist, yes.
I think, yeah, you're here. You've joined. You made it. Oh, and she's gone. I think you muted yourself.
Hold on. I wasn't prepared for video, so
Oh,
here I
sorry.
am at home just mid washing dishes and taking care of the children. But yeah, so what I'm understanding is you're saying that once the sidewalks are going to get put in, the enforcement with regards to crosswalks, is that where?
No, I mean parking on the new side,
Oh,
because the street currently has no sidewalks, and so I imagine that some people have been accustomed to parking their car, on their yard, right on the side of the road, as it were. But
Right,
once the sidewalks go
absolutely.
in, then they'll be, if they want to keep doing that, they'll be on the sidewalk, walking the sidewalk.
and which is absolutely illegal. And we already had some issues with people in Strawberry Hill parking in places where we just had an issue with out in front of the schools in that area, which I think George Street is not too far from the middle school, right? I'm just trying to map it out in my head.
Yeah, the south end is very close to the middle school.
Right. So we were trying to mitigate some parking issues there and block parking on Strawberry Hill just prior to the school, which probably bumped people back to their residential streets. So
Potentially.
I'm sure that one at some point will affect the other, but
Yeah,
to be
I'm not
seen.
saying that we need any immediate action because the sidewalks aren't there yet, but once they are, I imagine that'll have to be on your radar.
Noted.
Okay, cool, thank you. All right, it doesn't look like we have any other members of the public per se, so I think we'll go right into Greg's update. Greg has a few different updates. Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, so real quick, just starting out for the bike racks. The Shark bike rack was delivered last week. The one that's to be installed on Water Street, or North Water Street, right in front of the parking garage across from the aquarium. So it's, should be installed within the next 1 to 2 weeks. And we'll take a picture of it and, send it to everybody, once it's been installed. So we'd be happy to do that for everybody and, or, if you want to take a ride by there. So it should be installed. The other remaining bike racks, they will also be installed in the next 1 to 2 weeks as well. We laid it out, the locations, over the last few months, and everything is in, has been delivered and in place now, so we can, those will be installed as well, coming up. James Emery, our assistant parking director, has kind of been overseeing the installation of the bike racks and everything. So he's been constantly giving me updates. So give a lot of credit to him to getting everything coordinated and getting everything installed by whoever, wherever they are being placed. So we'll keep you.
Can I ask you quick about that, Greg?
Yes.
I know that things happen and everything isn't exactly predictable, but just for the sake of transparency, can you help us understand? Last time we met 2 months ago, I think you said approximately the same thing about the bike racks going in.
Yes.
It would be
So
about 1 to 2 weeks.
here's what happened. When we got the bike racks, when we actually opened them, there were some things missing from when we bought them because they were sitting around for a year, and we had to order new parts.
Yeah, so these are the ones that we purchased with our funds, like
Yes,
zero.
correct. At the end of the 2020 fiscal year that you guys purchased. So they've been sitting around for almost a year, and when they went to go install them, they were missing some pieces.
Gotcha. So, but those pieces have arrived now, right?
Those pieces have arrived, so they are being installed. James updated me on it this morning, and he said they are all getting installed in the next week or two.
Great.
So that I can tell you is being done. So that's all for bike racks.
Quick
Great.
question, Greg,
Yes.
quick question. Yeah,
Yep.
sorry. Go ahead, Judd.
I think it was 6 bike racks.
So there's 4 that's being installed.
Okay, and what are those locations?
So it's the Main Street lot.
Okay,
It is the Webster lot behind the theater,
okay, good.
the police department,
Oh,
and
where's the police department? Where's that one going?
right out front, right
Okay,
out front in that little plaza area.
okay,
And then the last one's the South Norwalk train station on the outbound approach. So
on the New Haven bound.
New
side.
Haven bound side, yes.
Okay, but so that's 4.
4, and then the 5th one was installed at the beach.
Oh, okay.
And then you ordered 5, and then that one was already installed.
And the shark rack.
Yes, and then the Shark bike rack is going in on North Water Street.
Okay, great.
My question was kind of to Tanner as to what happened to the comments on the locations.
That's right. Long story short, I dropped the ball on that one. I was supposed to put those all in an email and send it to Greg.
So are you talking about
So,
for the Shark bike
That
rack?
being said, I think the only one that I would really care about at this point would be the Shark one. And I
So
feel like it's kind of a waste to put an artistic rack like that just up against.
So here's the thing, that one was custom designed. It was already built. So once we had discussed that, it was already custom ordered to fit
Corner
that
there
one
with-
spot. So that's where, we can look in the future at other locations to put, other artistic, bike racks and other locations. But this one was custom fit. It's a pretty big size rack, so it's going, that's where the location of it is.
And that's on North Water, correct?
North Water, right by the entrance to the garage, across from the aquarium.
So, but to be clear, when you say the entrance, that's the car entrance at the
The
back.
car entrance of the garage, yes, correct.
Not the walking entrance.
No, not the walking entrance, no.
And that was originally a bike share location, right? Is that same?
Yes, it is. It's
Okay.
right as you come out. I believe that's the exit there where you come out of the garage. There's a big, it's like like an indentation of the sidewalk. So it's a pretty good sized sidewalk space. So there's plenty of, it's not impeding any pedestrians walking.
Okay,
There's plenty of sidewalk space there.
Greg, this is all under the auspices of James Emery, right?
What do you? So
like,
he's coordinating the installation
Yeah.
of the rack, and also the city purchased it. The Bike Walk Commission did not purchase the bike rack.
Yeah, I know. I think for the sake of completeness, I'll ping James and see just one more time if there is any flexibility for where we can put that. I
So
still
there,
agree with-
I've spoken to Jim and Garrett and James. It's not going anywhere else. Not this one. It's already, like I said before, it's already been custom fit for this location. It was measured out months ago. Then we can look at other locations to put another bike rack, but this one is going there.
Colin, what's your concern about that location?
It just seems like it's a very, it's an artistic rack, you know, and it deserves to be seen. Right there, it's going to be crammed up against a garage, and it's not going to have the impact. I mean, the rationale for a bike station hub, like, you know, for transportation is much different than the need for actual parking, you know. So it's like, I think in the sense of a bike share system, it makes a lot of sense to have the bike share kind of out of the way next to a parking garage. You know, they're not necessarily going to be pretty racks, you know, but this is I think I sent Greg an example, and I might have even texted you when I was on vacation in Florida earlier this year, and I saw a very similar rack that I think was a fish or something like that by a jetty in Florida, and it was out in the open in a park where people could circulate around it, and it lended to the nautical atmosphere. And I think it's a real big missed opportunity to not put it, you know, in a better adjacency to the river and more visible to the aquarium. I mean, I know that people, there's a lot of foot traffic by that area, but
Right, yeah.
I don't love the idea of, you know, missing to have it be a sculpture in a landscape. You know, it's like we've got this wonderful sidewalk area and this, you know, esplanade dock right there at the circle, and that's kind of a you know, it's a big focal point where people also walk, excuse me, around from the aquarium down by the river and up to the playground. So
I think at this point, we discussed this last time, we've discussed this time. If we're going to take any more action, it sounds like Greg says it's done. If we're going to do anything at all, it should be contacting James. Sergeant Galino, you've got a hand up.
My only question is, with regards to the bike rack that's going at the police department, is there a spot that's been already
Yes,
picked out?
so we have laid out, we had spoken to the police department, we went out, I don't know, I didn't go out on that specific one, but we did discuss with some representatives from the police department, Garrett and Jim, and went out on that one. And it's going on the concrete portion in front of in the plaza area, right about in the middle, right about there, yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's a tight, we have generous space there, but we use that whole space for community events.
It's only like a 4 loop bike rack, so it doesn't take up too much space. As lengthwise, it's really no more than 6-7 feet to take up space. So, you know, like I said, and Garrett had met with someone from the police department as well. It's not like we're just putting it there.
No, I understand. I'm just wondering and thinking about our events, and I didn't know if you did speak to somebody there. Thank you.
So, and Tanner, I know you want to reach out to James, but you're going to get the same answer you're getting from me. So if you want to, you certainly could, but it's going there.
Okay, well, I think that's all we need to discuss on that in this meeting. Anybody object? Great.
I've seen going in.
Yeah, definitely. I walk past the one at the South Norwalk station every day now, and I'm counting down the days. Or at least I would if there was a date. Okay, the next one's the connectivity grant update, right, Greg?
Yes, so DOT recently submitted their comments back to us. We submitted our design plans back in early to mid-July. So we've been eagerly waiting on their comments. So we finally got them a couple weeks ago. So we've already begun updating some of the comments that they submitted to us, and obviously it's 136, so it's their roadway, so we have to adhere to their comments on that portion. So they did have a good portion of comments, based upon some of their new design standards that they would like to implement, for striping, which we're doing. So, we have to adhere to, what their comments, and, we're working with them back and forth, and we're going to finalize all the plans with them. We're trying to work back and forth with them to get everything completed. We're finalizing the updated design plans, at least, and want to get them back to the state so they have plenty of time to review. We're going as fast as we can on our end, but we're dealing with DOT, so they're going through a lengthy review process, because we're implementing a lot of things that they're not quite used to installing on state routes. So they're really doing a comprehensive review on this one, because they want to kind of set a standard for the for the rest of the state. When other cities look to install bike boxes and other bike lanes such as these that we're looking to install. So we will keep everybody posted on that going forward. Any questions on that? No? Okay. Real quick, the city sidewalk inventory. So VHB has provided us a proposal. We've had a few meetings with them to perform a collection of all the walkways in the city. That includes all the surface types: concrete, brick, pavement, and all the curb types. So what they presented to us, it's kind of more cost and time effective to have VHB perform the sidewalk assessment. So we're kind of just working on the proposal right now and kind of putting the final touches on it. Obviously, earlier we had spoken about possibly using you guys and other volunteers for the collection process, but it's a pretty lengthy task for you guys. It's a lot. I mean, there's 280 miles of paved roadway in Norwalk, so that's a lot of miles for you guys to walk around and collect sidewalk data, and that may take some time, and it's a lot on volunteers such as that. So we're going to look to see if VHB can kind of perform the collection process and collect the necessary data, and also the ramp data as well, collect that data. So we're going to progress and see we gotten some baseline numbers so far, and cost wise it's not too bad. We're still working out some other contract details, so we will update you on that, because VHB, I don't know how many of you remember, but VHB did do a collection of sidewalks back in 2014. They did it on the urban core area, pretty much the Wall Street and the South Norwalk area. So they did about 55 miles worth of roadway that they collected. So obviously a lot of things have changed since then. So but they already kind of have a base of previously of what they did, and back then they did it just by walking around and actually doing all the sidewalk segments. So this time around will be much more technologically advanced. So it's the timeline's a little bit easier, and plus we want to expand throughout the entire city, and we really want to get that data. So they're very good at doing this, and they've done it in many other cities. So we'll keep you posted as that kind of advances.
That's great news, Greg. Thanks.
Yes, we're very, very pleased with that. And Tanner, like you talked about with Tierney Street, that's something that we will find during this assessment.
Sure.
Find
Yeah.
those areas, 'cause I'm sure there's many. If there's one, there's a lot more than that.
Yeah, I have no doubt. And for the record, I'm not offended at all that we won't have to do this. I only ever suggested that we do it, or that we coordinate volunteers to do it.
Yes.
In the absence of something like this. This is certainly better, and I think the data that we get will be much better.
Yes, and it's much more, and they'll be able to do a lot more comprehensive data as well. It's not just, there's a concrete sidewalk here. They'll be able to do the curb reveal, the condition of the concrete as well, which is very hard to tell just by looking, trying to get that assessment, and also the ramping as well, that we want to get in the conditions, because obviously there's a lot of non-compliant ADA ramps without warning strips, and so we definitely want to get that data as well.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's also worth noting that TMP just hired a traffic analyst,
Yes.
with a lot of experience in GIS, and he's one of his new responsibilities, from what I've heard, will be ingesting this data and figuring out what to do with it.
Yes, correct. So yeah, it's not just going to be a one-time deal, and we definitely want to harness the data and create a database off of it and update it as well. Once obviously some more sidewalk projects get done, and that's also working alongside DPW whenever they rehab a sidewalk, and then obviously when TMP is able to go in and get funding and install new sidewalks where we can.
Awesome. Any follow-up questions about that? We've got about a minute.
Greg, I got a quick question. What's the status of that Ludlow Circle study?
I haven't heard anything on that, Judd. I will see if I can get an answer, and I wasn't aware it was going to pop up tonight, but
Yeah.
I will
Next month.
Yeah, probably maybe next month I can get a more definitive update for you.
Okay, that'd be great.
Judd, I'll go ahead and put it on the December agenda right now.
Okay.
Awesome. So let's move on. Our next agenda item is from the redevelopment agency. Carly Kramer, would you like to tell us about the trail that you're looking at?
Sure. So we just submitted a CT Deep Recreational Trails grant application. It was due today. We submitted it on Friday for the completion of the trail segment at 40 Cross Street. So all those designs are pretty much done, and the easements are waiting to be signed. So this would just be for the construction of that part. So Bike Walk submitted a letter of support, so we thank you guys for that. And we got some support from Bike Walk CT, Norwalk River Watershed, NRVT, Bob Duff. So we're hoping that it's approved and we can continue finishing the trail so people aren't walking in the streets to get from point A to point B.
Great.
So does everybody understand where that trail is? What 2 points that we connect?
Tanner, could you pull up a map maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing it now. And this is based on just verbal descriptions that I've gotten. So Carly,
Yeah, so I can walk you through it a little bit more.
correct me if I'm wrong.
If you zoom in there.
Yeah, the NRVT comes, or will be coming, from Union Park here. Let me just throw a line on the map. Up, and it's going to cross Belden at this crosswalk and then come back toward the river and then go under the bridge like that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then this new section of trail will come around the back of this parking lot
Yep.
and then connect into the sidewalk right here. I
Yep.
imagine.
And then across the street is a finished area behind the apartments over there.
Yeah, you can see
So you'll
that
be able to.
right there.
uh,
So I guess then I have a question.
Yeah.
Is a crosswalk across the road right here part of the scope of this grant?
For now, it's not. So basically, when looking at it, kind of decided that a mid-block crosswalk on this busy intersection, especially with the grade change, wouldn't be safe there. I am all for looking into it in the future, but for now, it's going to be more you have to go down to the intersection and over and up. So it's not ideal, but
certainly not.
it's looking at ways to improve it in the future. So getting the trail built, and then hopefully a lot of people use it, and it's seen as a priority to look back at that and see what else we can do with it.
This is a little bit of a longer shot, but is there any room under the bridge to route the trail under the bridge and then connect in?
To go under the street?
Yeah, like along the riverbank.
I'm not sure. It'd definitely be an engineering question to look at.
Yeah, I haven't been out there in a little while, so I haven't even looked. Go ahead, Judd.
No, maybe Mike, Yosak would know about that.
My
Mike,
guess
you on
is,
call?
my guess is it would be cost prohibitive.
Yeah,
It's, you've got that trail along behind the Avalon is elevated and retained, and it's a pretty decent.
yeah, I'm not sure how you would make that connection.
Change from the river up to the
I see.
walking path.
You would be in a floodplain. It wouldn't be ADA acceptable, and just a whole it's really not feasible.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Yeah, I think
Carly
Yep.
or Mike, does the new trail come out where Tanner drew the line, or does it come up more toward the entrance of the parking lot that they're in a line with the trail across the street?
A little
Yeah,
more toward, right in that area.
Yeah, it would come out,
closer
it
to
would
the
come out near the
entrance.
driveway. So if you were to throw a signal up there, it would signalize the driveways and everything. But that would be, in the future at some point.
Okay.
Christine's got her hand up. Christine, go ahead. Christine, are you still there?
I think she's muted.
I don't think she's muted. At least not through Zoom. Yeah, Christine, it looks like you're toggling the mute. Christine, want to give it one more try? Okay, I think we might have to come back to Christine. Whenever you do figure out your setup, Christine, feel free to jump in and we'll let you make whatever comment you have. In the meantime, any other questions about this? I guess I would comment and say that I think that I acknowledge the constraints of the grant and whatever budget is there, and that it probably wouldn't include a crosswalk. But the idea that that we should wait on the crosswalk until there's a critical mass of people already using the trail, I think is a little bit backwards. I mean, the classic example of this being, you don't wait to build a bridge until there's enough people swimming across. I mean, it's a dangerous intersection, and walking all the way to the end of the block is quite out of the way. Not that people can't do it, but it certainly changes how convenient it is. And this is one of many examples of how it's so many parts of the city are just not pedestrian first. So I hope that in short order we could find the money to somehow put in a crosswalk here, ideally in advance of some sort of critical mass of people either crossing the road there or people going around, because either way it's suboptimal. I think it'll deter a lot of people from using the trail.
Yep, I definitely think it's something to look at, and we can revisit that as we look into the designs and getting it constructed.
Thanks. Any other comments on this? All right, well, we're certainly looking forward to additional trail miles in Norwalk. I applaud the redevelopment agency for working on that and being proactive in finding it. That wasn't even on my radar. So thank you, Carly, for presenting that.
Of course.
All right, our next agenda item is from Colin. Colin has some, I guess, granular feedback about two different places in the city. One around Tracy School and one around West Rocks Road, where the road was recently restriped. We had an email conversation between me and Colin and Greg and Jim Travers, and I put this on the agenda at Colin's request, but also to give a little more transparency into it. I think that the points that Colin has made are probably similar to a lot of points that are already being considered within TMP, but I thought that by reviewing it as a commission, we could maybe vote on it and kind of more formally propose it as a group to TMP. Colin, how does that sound?
That sounds good.
You want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I don't have the attachments. If you could share them, that would be.
Oh yeah, sorry, and
All right.
I'm still sharing the agenda here. Yeah, let me find them.
If you could pull up the West Rock stuff first.
Sure.
That's the Glendenning and the
Yep.
Jarvis.
I've got it on this vertical monitor here. Is it awkwardly tall? Should I try and compress the window down a little bit?
Yeah, probably for other people. I'm not offended, but
That's
better.
better.
So this is West Rocks Road, which coincidentally I live on, so I noticed pretty quickly when they ripped it up and repaved it. So the conversation developed when the Judd actually, funny enough, called me and asked me if I knew how where the markings were as to where they were striping the road, and I know that Jim and Garrett just recently worked really hard to get the lane width, minimum lane width reduced citywide to I think 10 feet. So I wanted to make sure that we were taking advantage of that to get to meet the goals of the connectivity and the various plans that we have, so that we had better buffers on the street for pedestrians, being that the lower section in this area is within the walk shed for the school. So I walked this route for the past couple of years with my daughter and now my son. So it is some swift moving traffic, and narrowing the lane as much as possible would be beneficial, just to provide more buffer to the sidewalk for pedestrians, and also additional space for people like myself that ride on the street. So we do have cycle sports is still at the top of the road, I believe. So there are people that commute up and down the street and ride for recreation. So striping it in such a way that it's at the very least bike friendly would be good. And two of the ideas that I've expressed in the past to I think the precursor to TMP. So when we were dealing with DPW, I tried to get an edge line continuation dash across Jarvis Street, because that's a very high speed descent, and cars take that opportunity to usually stray wide and then really just barrel into Jarvis Street. And there is a crosswalk there that gets used twice a day by kids and people walking to and from school. So just some indication that it's not a speedy off ramp is I think would be helpful, and it also helps give some indication, just some additional visual guidance there to follow the road and stay on course. And then the same thing at Glendenning, which is the top image, and that's again, it's a very wide apron for that road. It's a very small road in terms of load, so that wide apron area just encourages people to kind of lay on the gas as they start going up the hill, and they tend to stray wide. So keeping them more in the lane would be beneficial, and also give some additional guidance to families that come off of Glendenning and cross the street to the sidewalk on the other side of West Rocks as they're making their way to the school, or to some of the other schools have bus stops in the neighborhood down at the traffic light that's just south of the top image. So those are the two things that I've asked for in the past, and I think it would be beneficial to just continue those.
So Tanner and Colin, I did actually review this with Jim and Garrett, and we did, we did see these plans, and we did discuss. And so what TMP, obviously it was repaved, and they did come and actually just, lay out what the new design is going to look like. So we're going to have them come back, and we're going to put in a 10.5 foot edge line. One of the things that we were just concerned about was just the horizontal curvature of the roadway, to put it at 10 feet, being especially with, the amount of vehicles and heavy duty vehicles coming through the area. So we would, 10.5 feet would probably be more ideal for the lane width along West Rocks. It still will extend the shoulder width and give, better, bike access and, obviously more space for pedestrians as well. And then, we're obviously also going to look, we also want to implement the dotted dash extension lines through the intersections. And this is something that we're seeing throughout the state of Connecticut, that even, other cities are doing as well, as another traffic calming and safety measure as well. So we will look to do the extension lines through the intersections.
That's great news. Thank you. I think that'll help a lot. The only other request I'd have, looking at it, and I know that I did get an email from Jim, and he said they had looked, him and Garrett, and I guess you have looked at the markings. Is as a cyclist and a walker in this area, the uphill portion of West Rocks, pretty much from Glendenning to St. Mary's, I would say my preference would be to have a wider shoulder on the uphill portion, if possible, and to try and keep that fairly consistent. If you can hit 5 feet or greater in parts, I know the road width varies, so it's not always achievable, but being that people do climb, would be climbing and often out of the saddle, or really grinding it slow up the hill, that would be very helpful, just to have that additional space and leeway. Whereas when you're descending and coming down the hill, you kind of need the line as an edge line, even as a cyclist. You're really you're using it to avoid the obstructions and the catch basins in the gutter, and it'll help you just stay clear of that, since your speed descending West Rocks is going to be much greater, even as a novice, than going uphill. So
Right. I think we would just keep it 10.5, 10.5 throughout. And if the shoulder gets bigger, then so be it. But I think we'll just keep a consistent 10.5 foot.
no, sorry, I'm not suggesting that you vary the length.
Oh.
I agree, and I'm good with the 10.5. I'm just
Gotcha.
saying I would prefer as opposed to shrinking it uniformly. I would prefer that at the lower end. I guess I would just ask that you look at shrinking it one way, right? So take the 6 inches and the 6 inches and just squish it over to the left as we're looking at these images, as opposed to
Oh, you mean, so moving the center line?
Yes, shift the
Yes,
center
yeah.
line.
So
Yeah,
shift the center line.
Okay, well, that would be something that we would have to discuss, because I don't know that.
Well, look, it looks like you did in places, because the curves, especially at
Right,
the
but
northern end,
they're coming, yeah, right, but they're coming back, so I don't know if they were discussing about moving the center line. That was not, that wasn't, discussed as far as moving the center line in some places and keeping it the same in others, especially if it may affect the horizontal alignment at all.
right.
Well, then what was existing there, so that could affect the sight lines, if any,
Yeah,
or the alignment of the road. So we would have to really take a more in-depth look at it.
Yeah, so just the request is just to look at it. I think it would be beneficial from an overall mobility standpoint, and that's all I'm asking, is just take a look at it.
Okay.
Sorry, so it's still my agenda item, isn't it? So then something else is and Tanner can jump in if he remembers any more of the conversation with Jim Travers. Is Jim basically indicated that anything on site was not TMP related, but they'd opine and help with anything off site. One of the things that I've constantly noticed there over the years, this is what you're looking at is 2 different views of the intersection of Camp and Adams Street. Adams is a one-way street. That's the one that's going left to right, and Camp is the one that's going up and down. Yep.
Yeah, for context, Tracy School's right here. We got Route 1 and West Rocks over here.
Yep.
So we're talking about accessibility for students getting to Tracy School,
Yeah.
among others.
Yeah. So if you go back to the other image, yeah. So a few things that happen is the top image where I've got indicated restore sidewalk concrete. Over the past couple of years, parking over the sidewalk has really become a terrible issue. The curb was relatively low to begin with, and large SUVs and vehicles have been driving over the curb there consistently. And now they're at the point where I'm driving by in the evenings and there's some residents in the area that are parking well over the curb on the sidewalk and probably obstructing about half of the sidewalk. And it doesn't help that the property on the corner there has lots of overgrown landscaping that further constricts the sidewalk. So you get lots of families that walk down the sidewalk on the way to and from school, and cars that are often pulling well over the sidewalk while there's small children in the neighborhood. So what I think the on-street parking there that gets used de facto is beneficial overall to the community and to the neighborhood, but the cars need to be put back on the street so that the sidewalk can be used for the people that are walking and for the park and ride, or sorry, for the park and walk, because that's a very good area for people to just pull over. And if you have multiple kids, or if your kids are old enough to get dropped and walk, you don't get tied into the school congestion that's going on Camp Street, and you can escape relatively easily. And it provides a fairly good amount of on-street parking. So, but what does need to happen is the intersection does need to stay clear. So where I've indicated some areas where some striping could be added, and perhaps a daylighting bollard to just keep people from parking right at the corner and obstructing the bus turning movements, which are very difficult. There's also a fire hydrant on the corner, which kind of restricts the sidewalk. I think all of that would just give a little bit more breathability. Restoration of the sidewalk would help, re-elevate the curb and keep people from hopping it as easily. And also, I would take out the grass planting strip, because as it is used as kind of a drop-off zone, and it's very active for parking and walking. The grass just turns into a muddy mess, and the cars destroy it. So those are the ideas that I'm kind of highlighting here. And across the street on the lower image, oftentimes people do park in that area on the top of the bottom image, and that really obstructs the bus motion. So I do often feel that as much on-street parking as can be accommodated should be provided, because it does have traffic calming benefits and access benefits for people. But in this instance, I would think that establishing a no parking zone so that large buses and larger vehicles can better negotiate that turn during the busy times would outweigh the loss of parking. The vehicles are too large, and the turn is very narrow. I think just providing some level of organization to all of this would be very helpful. And then just as a relatively tall individual, I do have a pet peeve about the sign that's right by the stop bar, and it's definitely not set to ADA height, and getting that up above the 84 inches that's needed for an overhanging obstruction would be good, because right now it's probably at about 5'6" or so, and there's a lot of people that could hit their head on the overhang sign.
Tanner, if I may hop in, Colin, if I may hop in. So I actually did actually have a chance to meet with Jim and Garrett and discuss this portion as well, if you guys don't mind.
Go ahead.
So Jim and Garrett, obviously this has been an area they've been looking at as well. So with their plans, they're not planning on doing any striping or vertical delineators on the road. Their plan is to just normalize the signage in the area. Obviously that low sign, we can, easily move that up at that intersection, just raise that stop sign and just put some restrictive signing up to make sure that there's obviously doesn't impede any of the buses turning, and it doesn't obviously, so the buses can make that turn and make things, obviously easier for pedestrians to get through. Especially the sidewalk, that's something that, it is a existing sidewalk. So I mean, a service request to DPW, can easily fix the curb reveal and raise the sidewalk up and make a better sidewalk for that area. So that might be able to fix that issue as well. So, just, like you said, just submitting the service request to DPW. Another thing also that we would also like to do along Camp Street is also put an edge line along the northbound approach on Camp Street. So it's very similar to what we're doing on West Rocks as well. So the edge line will delineate the bus pulling bus pulling area on Camp Street. So we'll just kind of improve the traffic flow, and and also we're looking to also put speed feedback signs as well on both sides of the roadway on Camp Street, on both the south approach and the north approach as well, to deter speeding on the street as well. So those are just some of the things that TMP is planning on doing in this area.
So if I understand correctly, Greg, the things that DMP is looking to do involve signage in the area, and then a speed sensor that would then be displayed to drivers.
Yeah,
So,
it'll be on both. So it would be on both approaches on both ends of the roadway.
yep. And then in addition to that,
along with the edge line as well, to better define
the edge line.
the bus pulling area. And then one other thing that we want to add to, as far as the Tracy School driveway, is we've TMP, along with working with the principal of the school as well, we've created a concept of a 12-foot wide paved asphalt driveway loop behind the school that will accommodate passenger vehicles during peak time pickup and drop-off times to ease traffic and any parking issues on camp. The entrance and exit to the parking lot, the entrance and exit to the loop will be connected to the existing parking lot. So if you'll pull it in here a little bit, Tanner. Yeah, so it will be a loop around the entire area behind here. So it'll be about a 12-foot wide driveway path, loop all the way around, and then connect to the entrance and exit to the existing parking lot. And then during off-peak hours, the paved loop can be used as a pedestrian path. So it'll only be available to vehicles during drop-off and pickup time, and then off-peak will be used as a bike and ped path, similar to the one behind City Hall, if you will, that people use very much during the day.
And
And
this one.
yes, similar to that one. Yep. So people can use that loop, and they've already presented the option to the assistant superintendent and the principal as well. So obviously the investments on school property is up to the Board of Ed, and it's their budget. So we only assisted them in kind of coming up with some better ideas, to alleviate some of that on-street parking issue, because people sit there and park and wait, and so we're hoping to kind of deter people from parking on the street and get them into this 12-foot wide path that will take some of that off. And it will gate some of the parking issues on the outside of the school on Camp Street.
Yeah. Are you currently they're running a reverse traffic pattern through that loop? Are you seeing that as connecting to the like where Tanner has the zero?
Correct.
So knock out a few parking spaces potentially.
Yes, we would lose. So yeah, correct. So we would lose altogether. We'd lose 4 or 5 spaces, I believe, altogether. But we would have been able to accommodate about 50 to 60 passenger vehicles in this loop.
Okay.
And then like I said, off peak hours, we would be able to, it would be a pedestrian path. So either, as far as like the nitty gritty details, as far as what way is in, what way is out, that wasn't really determined as of yet. We did both plans to accommodate both ways. So whatever, ultimately it's going to be up to the Board of Ed and to the powers that be to decide, if this is what they want to go with. So we just kind of assisted them in just helping them alleviate some of that traffic issue.
Well, I like that idea much better than the loop that was talked about previously that was returning out to Camp Street in a second curb cut. And I think the I think that for the school community, having an improved pathway around the athletic field would probably be a good benefit. So I kind of like that, actually.
Yep, and like I said, it was just a quick concept that
Mhm.
that we put together and presented to them. We'll see where they take it from here.
I think,
Okay.
Barb, I see your hand up. I think Sergeant Galino had her hand up also. Sergeant Galino, do you want to go first and then Barb?
Sure. Just so I had been looking at this for the last couple of years with a few different individuals. I just had two comments. I don't know what that second cut you were referring to, going into Cam Street. However, there is a path on the opposite side of the school, opposite of where the driveway is.
So we did look at that. The issue with that is it's only about a 10, maybe 11-foot opening. So it's very tight between the property of the school and the adjacent property line. And there is a building where the other property owner is as well. Plus there's also a kindergarten class that lets out right there on the side of the building. So there would be vehicles going right by that entryway and exit as they come out. So it's very tight going in through there.
Are
All
you
right,
talking about-
my only
No, you
thoughts were,
got to turn right, Tanner.
So
Yeah,
this sidewalk right here?
Yeah.
I see. Go ahead.
My
Sorry,
own-
Sergeant Galino.
my only thoughts were, I don't know if there's any point in time when parents are going around that back lot, the grassy area, where it might, you have children or people in that playground area and cars going through the area at the same time, particularly abutting the school at the very rear of the building. But neither here nor there. The only other issue that we kept running into, particularly if we were gonna not change that entrance, if you can go back to the parking lot
Where?
where it meets Camp Street.
Yes, so this curb cut?
Mm,
Let's get-
Right at Camp Street.
Oh, the proposed curb cut over here?
No. Where the current driveway meets the street.
Right here,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right there.
So if you zoom in right there,
to Street View?
yep, where the right-hand turn arrow is, if you bump over a little bit to the left right there, okay, see where that sewer is?
This
You
one?
can see that entire buses, cars keep going over that curbing right there because that
Oh.
turn gets so tight in the morning, and that adds to a very huge congestion problem right there. Also, having everybody coming in and out, obviously, everybody's going to have to turn right. There's a lot of people who do not do it there, but that right-hand turn is more difficult than turning left with the width of the buses and some of the SUVs that are coming out of there. They're literally, if you zoom in, you probably can even see the damage to the apron. I think that's called an apron. I don't even know, but you can see the black marks over there where people just keep, that's just such a horrible turning spot there.
Yeah, so I can actually speak to that personally because I looked at that with Nancy and I think Barbara a while ago, and one of the things that we had suggested at the beginning of last year when school first started going back into session was that they reversed the traffic flow, and they've been running that for the past year and a half, and it's been fairly successful. So the inbound traffic, which pretty much almost exclusively comes from the south, there is some that does come from the north, comes in the out arrow. Yeah, it comes in that way. And they're able to stack a substantial, almost triple the amount of cars inside the driveway currently. And then to your point, the right-hand turns now have much more apron space to actually get in the lane and avoid that sharp turn maneuver. So that's been the curb strikes, I think, have been substantially reduced, and it's a much more
So
organized.
you're crisscrossing
flow.
crisscrossing entrance and exit, or if you first,
Correct. So the
Yeah,
end,
it's
so you're, but only during the pickup and the drop off time, and that allows them to get about 30 plus cars in the queue as opposed to the 12 that they were getting before. So
And then that's where kids are, pedestrian traffic is coming through too, between crisscross car pattern.
Correct, but you had that issue anyway, and they do have I think the SRO or staff is out there anyway, along with the crossing guard at the crosswalk.
So
to
I
assist
can
with
guarantee you that the
management.
SRO is not out there, as we are down to only 2 out of, I think, 6. We are at bare bones right now, so.
Okay, well, there's somebody with a vest that looks official.
Yeah. that's what I did.
But it's my point being is that there's somebody helping to manage that those motions, and it's been working well for over a year at this point. So it has helped with some. I do like Greg's idea, so I think that's got some legs to it, and I think that should be explored.
So I
Wonderful.
just want to point out that we are running quite short on time. Anything that either of you need to finish with, because Barb still has a comment, and then I think we need to move on.
I think I'm good here. I just asked Greg if there's anything that I could request to be shared so that I could bring that to the Tracy community and the parents.
At this moment, so we just shared it. It's up to the, like we said, we submitted it to the principal and the assistant superintendent. So, we'll hear once, it's really up to them. Like I said, we just put together a proposal, a concept design for them to see what, it's ultimately up to them.
Okay, so I can get access to it through the PTA and the SGC. And the
Yes,
principal probably. Okay.
I'm sure it's at that level. If
Okay.
not, then, I'm sure at some point it will be.
Okay, thank you. My only other agenda item, Tanner, was had to
Well,
do with
before
parks.
we move on, Colin,
Yep.
Barb had a comment.
Okay.
Just a couple brief things. When we did look at the traffic pattern a year and a half or so ago, and we're talking about going around the building, one of the things that we were told at that time was that Rec and Parks has some strong feelings, and apparently we were told that that field was really theirs and that they didn't want things back there because of their soccer or whatever goes on back there. Has that been addressed, Craig?
I don't know. Is Ken on right now?
Sadly, he's not. He was on earlier, but he must have had to leave.
Oh, okay. It wasn't, as far as we were told, it's part of school property and it's up to Board of Ed, because it's on their parcel. So we stayed within their right of way, and we were told it was up to the Board of Ed to make that decision because it's on their property.
So I don't know what the facts are, but we were told at that corner where they play, like a playground area there, that was Rec and Parks and they didn't want it touched. So I don't know if we were given proper information, but down in what would be the right-hand lower corner and what you're showing now.
Yeah, that portion wouldn't be touched in our concept. That portion would stay. That's not being touched. It's just the paved path would go, right in that area, just to loop around the entire back portion there.
Okay.
So it wouldn't take anything away from that. I don't know, maybe the original plan was supposed to be, the creation of the new driveway that would affect that
Yes.
potentially. Yeah, so this one doesn't.
Okay. The other thing.
This one enters and exits through the parking lot.
Understood. Another thing I was wondering, if you look down in the lower left-hand corner of the screen here, that, the very corner there, there's access there to a road that goes directly out to, I think it's Father Conklin Place or something like that. And I was wondering if you gave any consideration to, I can't really see it here, but I've driven it and walked it. You can really go straight out that corner and straight to the side. And you're not really by the church, you're running along the back edge.
When I was looking at that as well, I asked about that and I was told it was an issue with the property belonging to the church, but that was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, if it would have to go onto another property owner, then that would, that may cause another issue.
Yeah.
So we didn't look at that because we wanted to stay within the school property, just from talking to the principal and the assistant superintendent. So no, we didn't consider anything going into somebody else's property to get out.
Yeah, I guess it must be church property. When I've walked it, it
Yeah.
just feels like a road.
Yeah, I mean, it's not it doesn't look like it's an official city road, so it would definitely be outside the right of way.
Yeah. And there's an opening into that field from that, what I call a road.
Yeah.
You can't really see it well here, but.
Yeah, say looking at the, just from looking at the parcels around the area, the layer, I'm pretty sure that that's not within the right of way.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Barb. Let's move on to the last point of Colin's. And actually, I've been involved with this as well, so I think I'll just take it. If that's all right, Colin. We've got in let's see, it's also here. Yeah, so this is at Flax Hill. This is actually right by where I live, and I've been asking for this kind of indirectly for a little while. This entrance to Flax Hill on Taylor Ave used to be just a fence, and it was a gate, to be fair, but the gate was always chained shut, and so people would have to walk around the left edge here on the grass, which has just become a dirt path. And it was not very accessible, certainly not accessible for anybody in a wheelchair, hard on a stroller, hard on a bike, and Parks finally came through and ripped out the fence and put in this simple wooden bollard. So I was hoping Ken would be here so we could thank him directly, but this is looking great. Also on the north end, this is feedback from somebody through Colin, a friend of Colin's, I think, who was attempting to access the north end of the park, which also has ostensibly a pedestrian access, but the gap between this gate and this rock was so small. I haven't been out there to check, but according to Ken, on Friday morning last week, they moved this boulder so that there's now a wider gap. Colin, have you been able to confirm that?
Yeah, they did move it.
Is it wide enough?
It is.
Great. Cool. So that was more of an announcement than anything else. Any questions about that? Awesome. Okay, so we are 4 minutes over. I had an agenda item about People for Bikes city ratings. I'll just do that as a quick informational note. In past years, we have filled out some applications. Maybe it was just a couple of years ago. We filled out an application to receive a score from this association called People for Bikes. We got a score, and the score is very low. We're actually the lowest score in all of Connecticut in terms of bike friendliness. It's kind of an opt-in thing, right? Cities that don't submit anything aren't rated. But a lot of their methodology goes actually through OpenStreetMap, and so they ask that cities that want to improve their score make sure that their cities reflected, especially the bike facilities, are reflected on OpenStreetMap. So I'm looking at putting together a little mapping party just to make sure that stuff's up to date. Anybody, just based on that quick description, would anybody be interested in joining me to do some open source map updating? Don't all jump at once.
What does that mean, Tanner?
Okay, so OpenStreetMap is a digital map. It's a service kind of like Google Maps, but it's not. It's open source, meaning that it's just contributed by volunteers. Both the data in the map and also the software that renders the map. And you can find it if just on the web. Probably just openstreetmap.org. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. And if you zoom in, you'll see that there's a lot more detail than on a service like Google Maps. All sorts of stuff there. You can see the NRVT is there, right? So the way that they generate part of their score is by ingesting data from OpenStreetMap, because anybody can contribute, kind of like Wikipedia. This is basically the Wikipedia of maps. Anybody can add to it, and as a result, there's tons of data. Not all of it is accurate, but by and large, it's accurate. As you can see, there's tons of stuff there. So point is, we would just need to, if we wanted to try and improve our score, we want to make sure that any bike facilities that have been added recently are reflected on OpenStreetMap, because then that will be ingested by their tool that generates a quantitative score of how good our bike network connectivity is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I mean, how do we go about adding to that?
You probably have to create an account, and then there's a little bit of training that I would probably do, and then I could just teach people how to do it. But it happens, through your browser. You just do it on your computer.
And you're sending information in about where bike infrastructure is, or what's correct or wrong, or is that it?
Exactly.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested.
Cool. Anybody else interested? We certainly don't need everybody. Gary? Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll provide another update on that at the next meeting. I think the deadline is sometime in January, so we'll do this somewhat soon, but it's certainly not urgent. Last thing by way of announcement, our friend Audrey, who was not able to be here tonight, but is certainly a friend of the commission, asked me to share. There's going to be on the Norwalk Green. There's going to be an event on the Monday before Thanksgiving. I have the. That's not it. Here it is. Yes, November 22nd, the Monday before Thanksgiving. There's a gathering on the green of a bunch of different community stakeholders, including the churches that are there, the Norwalk Historical Society, Columbus Magnet School, which is nowhere near the green, but they're joining in. She asked that we share this on our social media, so I plan to do that. She also asked if we wanted to be an event partner. I'm kind of two minds about this. I think it's great to contribute to community events, but I also don't really see a particular angle for there's no explicit promotion of biking or walking here except by virtue of it being held on the green, which has traditionally been a gathering place for people who are walking to get there. Anybody have particular thoughts about how involved we would like to be with this?
In what way?
So I guess Audrey in particular asked if we wanted to be listed as an event partner. It doesn't require anything from us. It gives us a little bit of visibility, but at the same time, like I said, there's not really an obvious connection for us. We're not really a community group in the same way that the rest of these are. We're an advisory commission. So I would be fine either way if somebody has a strong opinion.
Well, I mean, what does it mean to be an event partner?
It means that your name shows up on this flyer. That's about it.
I'm okay with that.
I don't think it's in line with our mission.
Yeah, I think I would at least softly agree with that.
Okay.
Any other opinions?
Yeah, I mean, unless we're going to show up and have a table and talk about connectivity on the green, not really an event partner, more of a special guest featuring.
Okay, I don't imagine that will fit in, but I can bring that up. Is anybody object to us sharing it on our social media? I think that would still be.
No, I think promoting events local events is probably fine.
Great. Then I'll plan to do that. Awesome. So that's all that was on the agenda. Anything else urgent, or should we vote to close the meeting? Great. Well then, Judd.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thanks. A second.
I'll second
I'll
it.
second.
Thanks, Barb. Anybody opposed? Awesome. Okay. Thanks for meeting, everybody. Next meeting's on December 6th, same time. I hope to have it in person. If that happens, I will let you know all via email, but otherwise plan on Zoom.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
See y'all. Thanks,
Good
everybody.
night.